Hey everybody, I'm back again with Gabe, and today's topic that we're going to discuss is the Magnificent Seven, as it's been a pretty exciting earnings call. So, welcome back, Gabe, and what's on top of your mind today?
Well, what's on top of my mind is at the time of recording this, Meta is currently at $450. So congrats to any shareholders out there, man.
Wow, yeah,
And
didn't they go way down like in 2022? It was like in $90 a share, so it's like gone up 5x.
yeah, when I wanted to buy it, which I didn't buy, which I should have bought, I was looking to buy it at $86, I think it was the cost.
Oh man. Wow.
Yeah, and then prior to this, as the day is recording of this, Amazon has yet to report that is already up 14%, I think.
Holy smokes. Wow. So these Meta and Amazon, they seem to be blowing earnings expectations out of the water. Why do you think that is?
With mostly the forefront of AI, and then the fact that a lot of these companies can pull these levels, and so a lot of market forgets that these are very highly profitable companies when they want to be.
Wow. So I mean, how much do you think that it's hype compared to they're actually delivering real growth and what do the numbers look like from what you've seen?
For like real growth, from what I've gathered, a vast majority of the sales for retail and stuff like that in the US is tends to be double digits, like 14, 13, 12, and all that. And then with everything seems to be executing on all cylinders. They just announced $50 billion buyback program at 400, which is weird to think about that they're buying back at 400 shares instead of buying back at like
Wow.
the lows.
So Mark Zuckerberg thinks his stock is even on sale now.
I guess
Wow.
as it does, but the way that Meta's set up to be, like they have A's and then they have C's.
Hmm.
I'm assuming he's buying back the C's because the founder shares overtop the A shares.
Okay. So they're buying back the more of the everybody shares that are the C shares
Hmm.
or
Yeah,
C
this could be like
class.
a Google
Yeah.
situation.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess I mean, it'd be interesting to see, what the valuation of Facebook Meta really is. Makes me wonder, what could their potential be in the future, and are their growth justified by kind of the trends we're seeing with AI? Like, how are these companies either using AI or like what's pushing something like Meta to reach these performance levels?
I think a lot of people sleep on WeChat with them being the dominant player in a lot of these third world nations like India. They don't even use Amazon. They tend to use We Merchant and stuff like that. And a lot of the growth will come from international now. And of course ads. The best business humans ever invented has been the ad.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. And that's probably why Google has come back, another one of the Magnificent Seven. And in case anybody doesn't know, some of the Magnificent Seven that has been thrown around recently are like Amazon, Meta, Google, Alphabet, Apple, NVDA, Tesla, and trying to think if I'm missing any. Did I leave one out?
No, you didn't miss no one. No, that's all the
Okay.
big. That's all the big American names.
Yeah, which is interesting that like everybody else was expected to do well except for Tesla. So Tesla has been on such a kind of downward trend that it actually fell to, I think, position number 10 on if I look at the top companies' market caps. And if we take out Saudi Aramco, that list is really Tesla's in number 9. And even Eli Lilly jumped ahead of Tesla for the time being when I checked yesterday on January 31st. And also Berkshire is even higher than Eli Lilly. So I'd almost want to argue maybe Berkshire should be considered part of the Magnificent Eight. It shouldn't just be,
Uh,
big tech, but maybe, I don't know, Berkshire is like punching up there.
it is. It is. It is. It's weird to think about that Berkshire will always be up there with the market skies that they are. I know that you had on Adam Newman, I think he was the guy that wrote the history of Berkshire. I
Mhm.
know that he can. I know it was either you or him who making the argument that it can be a trillion-dollar company.
Wow. Well, I believe it. I mean, it's already at least 833 billion. So, I mean, I don't see why it couldn't grow to that point at some point. Like Berkshire, I think was almost around $400 a share or getting close to it. Like, so that's pretty impressive too, that it's gone up pretty quickly this year. But back to the official Magnificent Seven. I mean, do you think Meta is using AI and like already like using it, say in WhatsApp to make it competitive with something like WeChat, for example?
Oh, they own WeChat.
Oh, Meta owns WeChat too?
Yeah, I mean not WeChat.
Oh,
My bad. Oh, my bad. But I misspoke. They own WhatsApp.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, like, is Meta making WhatsApp more competitive with WeChat? Because I know WeChat's popular in China, but like,
Mm.
can Meta, put more market share with WhatsApp in some of these international places? Like, I know a lot of countries like using WhatsApp for some of their encryption, and it's sort of popular, but makes me wonder. I've heard that they're monetizing WhatsApp, that they're actually charging businesses, let's say, that might use it and whatever. But yeah, do you know if there's anything Facebook Meta is doing to use AI to supercharge any of their current apps?
Yeah, they're definitely supercharging marketplace. I
Okay.
noticed with the marketplace ads, and of course WhatsApp. As you mentioned before, WhatsApp is still the dominant player for India's payment processor and stuff like that. They tend to use WhatsApp as the merchant
Mm,
and as the payment processor with that. So
mm.
they're trying to do the Amazon model on WhatsApp. So yeah, I definitely think that Meta would definitely be one of the big players out there for AI. They're not they're not really in the forefront of AI with you Googles and you Microsofts, but they're there, and with you Apples too. And of course the sleeper hit of Meta has actually been the Meta Quest, being now being
Oh,
now becoming one of the prominent players in VR for headsets.
well, speaking of that, I saw like Apple came out with a $3,000 headset that is supposed to take on what Quest is about. So like, I don't know yet, how people feel about Apple's version, but I wonder, how like there were so many companies that tried to make like a smartphone, but only Apple cracked the code to make consumers want to actually adopt it. Like I'm sure Quest is pretty good in its technology, but I wonder if Apple can outdo whatever Quest offers. Like, do you have any insight into that yet, or is it still too early days to tell?
So it's still very early innings, but with Apple's Vision Pro, you're talking about the Vision Pro 2, which clocks
Mhm.
in at a clocks in at a spicy, I think it's a spicy 4K
Oh wow.
for all the Mac specs. They're going for augmented reality, so they're gonna make it one-way glass, and you can interact with other people. So think of it like a Google Glass, if
Yeah.
you remember what that was like,
Yeah,
and
I heard
everyone.
that. I heard about that like 10 years ago.
And yeah, but with the MetaQuest in Pacific, you get a lot of the games on now
Hmm.
too. And with the help of PC gaming, you can import a lot of your PC games on to the MetaQuest and use it as a headset. And with Meta now being able to access the Xbox library too, you can now play any Xbox game via through on your MetaQuest.
Oh, cool. Well, that's
Mm.
pretty neat. Like that they definitely have more of a first mover advantage if Meta can secure more market share and hold off Apple for a while. But definitely interesting that Apple's seemingly entering more of the space. Like I hadn't really heard of Apple coming out with much in the virtual reality or AR space. And so it's kind of interesting seeing that, all these like big tech people are kind of fighting each other. Like Microsoft Azure is like kind of you know, one upping Google Cloud. And also, obviously, there was like Chat GPT with Microsoft, and that was like, kind of putting a damper on Google. And Google then came out with Bard. So I know they're all like jockeying for like market share in some of these areas.
Yeah, you seen a jockeying for language models in Pacific. I listened to the Google's call, and they now have the version that Bard uses is now going to be upgraded to the premium version of the framework. But then Google announced they have a better version for businesses for that to repay, and then they'll get it into AI with Eli Lilly in Pacific too for gene sequencing and stuff like that. And then too they have YouTube TV. A lot of people forget that YouTube TV is a huge platform. A lot of people forget that YouTube in general is such a giant media conglomerate that is now disturbing traditional media
Oh
with
yeah.
them getting if I took it in Pacific. And the fact I can stream the fact I can buy the Super Bowl on YouTube is insane.
Wow. So you're talking about like there's an NFL ticket on YouTube TV?
Yep. Yeah, they now secured NFL ticket.
Nice.
Amazon has Thursday Night Football.
Right.
If you go on Twitch, you can get every single Thursday Night Football game for free now.
Oh wow.
And yeah, that's about it. And I know that there has been a lot of bids for the other sports conglomerates like like the soccer leagues and stuff like that too.
Yeah. And I heard Netflix, actually Netflix doesn't seem to be talked about in this Magnificent Seven, but they're also like a huge, obviously tech media company. And I heard Netflix was also trying to secure some rights to more live streaming of sports.
Yep, they just secured the rights of Monday Night Raw, which is a insane deal for TK Holdings, the owners of UFC and WWE, with the Dwayne Rock Johnson joining the board.
Mm.
So I don't know if you viewers are aware that you can own the UFC.
Wow. No, I had no idea. Pretty
And
cool. Yeah, and I thought Netflix was maybe either sort of involved with Formula One or like, featuring like a popular documentary, I think, if I remember right. So I don't
mhm,
know if they're doing something there, but I imagine, some of these hot sports phenomena that all these media players are trying to get in with, the popular ones to give the viewers what they want to see.
yeah, I think I've seen the Formula One documentary that you mentioned on Netflix.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I heard good things about it. I've not seen it, but yeah, like
How's this
but
going?
it's amazing how, a lot of tech was beaten down in 2022. And then as soon as like the beginning of 2023 rolled around, a lot of them recovered since then. And a lot of them are still really up. So it's amazing how, that's why I'm trying to ask these questions of, is it hype or is it real? Like, and these big tech keep just taking away more market share. Like the more that people invest in, say, the S&P 500 index fund, more of their money is technically getting invested in the top of these companies like Microsoft and Apple and so on. So it's amazing how they just keep getting bigger. And it makes me wonder, like, how much people are piling in because, like, genuinely, like, there's a good growth story, or are they all, pumping them up too much? And then there's going to be a reckoning, like with Tesla, when you have a little bit of EV sentiment, a little bit not as strong right now. Like I think Tesla came out saying that sales are slowing down, and there were some kind of bearishness in some of the EV charging stocks. So in EV space, it seems a little like that's pulling back right now. Like maybe kind of like growth got a little ahead, and then that pumped up the stocks. But now the reality is like people are a little bit like not as ready to change from their gas combustion engine cars over to electric vehicles yet. So it seems like that might be the general trend with Tesla. Was there anything you notice about them that could explain why Tesla, unlike these
Um,
other Magnificent Seven, are like pulling back?
well, I don't know if you know this, but Elon Musk try to get another $50 billion for free.
Oh, well, yeah, of course, like that $55.8 billion pay package was struck down. I heard about that. But I mean, how's that supposed to affect Tesla as a business? Like, what happened to them
Well,
being like a $1 trillion company and now suddenly $400 billion evaporated from their market cap.
Well, he threatened to leave the company to go start other AI ventures. And if you look at Tesla too, they're priced for to be the leading component for FSD, animation, and all of that. Are the huge AI for manufacturing these cars to be that too. And of course too, you have the bearish sentiment of the cars catching on fire. They straight up cannot handle the cold,
Ooh,
so
yeah,
so
right.
they will just and this they get frozen and stuff like that.
Yeah, I heard
If you want to
about
look
that.
if you want to look at a car manufacturer that is doing it right and is very slow to come out, you should always look at the Japanese Toyota. Toyota's right now, it's the best. They have the whole entire book about the Toyota way. And
Uh-huh.
they're right now they're leading the pack in EVs. They're trying to do solid state batteries
Mm-hmm.
with Tesla doing ion still.
Oh.
That makes sense why it's so combustible, because if you go set your laptop out in the freezing cold, it's gonna literally break.
Mm-hmm. Could that also be similar to like electric bikes that no wonder
Mhm.
a bunch of them set fire to buildings?
Yep. Yeah, a
Wow.
lot of electric bike use ion batteries. A lot of small motor vehicles use ion batteries. We've used ion for now since I was like 13.
Mm-hmm.
So so I'm assuming they're gonna move on from that technology hopefully soon to get
Wow.
better power slash more efficiency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that for sure. And like I heard, I mean, obviously Toyota led the way many years ago with hybrid cars, and they sort of seem to like I think I remember hearing about the CEO of Toyota crying or something because he's like, I failed and I didn't pursue EV when I should have been more aggressive about it or something like that. So it's kind of interesting how maybe Toyota will, be more in people's minds. Like if they're thinking like, okay, maybe I'm not yet ready to go full EV, but a hybrid could be sort of better now. Like maybe it's an in between. And I heard more car manufacturers are thinking more hybrids in the meantime, like while they continue to electrify more of their fleet.
Oh yeah, this one too. I also forgot to mention too, the BYD has now surpassed Tesla in car sales too.
Wow. But is that more in China, like just over there more so?
Yeah, it's more in China, but yeah, they now have the China market and they're on pace to like, keep on taking market share from Tesla,
Wow. Like,
which is very weird to think about that the
well,
Chinese are going to be leading
yeah, but is
this
that only in
electrification.
China or is that also abroad? Like overtaking Tesla not only in China but abroad too?
They're now starting to ship their cars overseas. I did see a review of the BYD versus the Tesla, and the BYD won because Tesla keeps on making really weird design choices within their cars too.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then yeah, I can see BYD definitely coming over here and definitely making some waves. I know they overtaken China fully, and then I know that Tesla is losing in the EU front to Volkswagens and all the EU manufacturers still.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty like negative for Tesla. I mean, so many people were piling into that company for many years, and it's like incredible to see some of this reversal that's unlike the other tech, but like we can see they're not immune to some of these other competitors like that are, pretty competent, it looks like. So I guess we'll see how that space keeps evolving. But thanks for those insights about Tesla. And how about let's shift maybe to Microsoft. What's Microsoft doing?
Um, in the gaming space in Pacific, I think they cut like 7,000 jobs due to overlap of Activision, and they cut the full physical game department too, which was pretty sad to see. As we keep on getting digitalized in the electronic gaming space, the Azure growth was in pretty good, and stuff like that. And yeah, Microsoft continues to be the dominant player in AI and just copying everyone essentially and doing less effort.
Wow. I mean, Microsoft is so sticky and like a lot of things they do, they mostly made good bets. Like even though there's some that didn't maybe work out as well, like Skype a long time ago, but with Activision Blizzard, I guess it makes sense because if you have already some gaming department and you take on another one that did the same thing, you don't need all of the same people. Like say, unfortunately, say people who did accounts payable. If you already have people who did AP, and then you don't need AP again from some other company you took over. So sadly, some of those people might lose their jobs, and then maybe like with some of the actual people who designed the games and developed them, I've heard in general in like gaming industry, it's so cutthroat, and there's always like these waves of, they're in a rush to make a game, and then once it's pretty much ready to launch, they let go of a ton of people. So there's so much turnover in the gaming industry already. Like it makes me wonder why people seem to, try to go above and beyond to be part of it when it just seems so difficult. Like I'm guessing, it's a big risk, big reward for the people who work in the gaming industry. I mean, I'd be curious if anyone's out there, if they work in the gaming industry or know more about how that job market kind of works, because it just seems so hard. Like as much as we all love games, but why work somewhere when you're potentially going to lose your job pretty quickly after a game launches? So like kind of confusing, isn't it?
It is confusing, but a lot of people go into this industry due to passion. Like to put in perspective, the Call of Duty studio named Sledgehammer had a slash. I think it was like 2,000 boys, and then a lot of the slashes came from a very specific studio called Toys for Bob, which made the Spy remake, which is sad to see because they're a very small upcoming studio with the fact that they had an amazing remaster of the Spiral collection, of course. And then on top of that too, I think they had to cut a lot of the cuts came from Blizzard too in Pacific. They had to scrap the open world game, which was in 6 years in the making due to engine
Wow.
issues. And then two, you had prior to all of this, you had the close down of Overwatch 2, which was pretty big. And then you have all that. But other than that, it seems like it's going very well because Microsoft, for the gaming division in Pacific, they've been trying to acquire a lot of double A studios, like a lot
Mm.
of smaller studios, just to incorporate into the development house. And of course, too, you have the cuts at 343 Studios, which is the creators of Halo,
Hmm.
too.
Wow. So, I mean, overall, it seems like it's going well for Microsoft as much as they paid, I'm sure, a pretty penny for Activision. And I think they took them over, what, like $90 a share, something like
Yeah, it
that.
was
So,
$90 a show.
yeah, or 95 maybe
Mhm.
95. So when they did that, I mean, I think part of the concern I have a little bit is like, we see more of this consolidation, and no wonder there's a lot of kind of government rhetoric about how some of these big tech could be getting monopolistic, and some things might not be as monopolistic. Like Amazon will say, how can we possibly be a monopolistic when we let all these other third-party vendors sell on our website? We're not taking their ability to sell away. So maybe for Amazon, they are not being so antitrust. But it makes me wonder when, something like a Microsoft is kind of cornering more market share with gaming. Are there enough other gaming, alternatives? Because let's say you lost your job now from you used to work at Activision Blizzard and now you don't have that job. Where can you go? Like, what other company can you work for? I know you could probably work for Sony PlayStation, right? But like, it just seems like the universe of gaming companies is getting smaller.
It is consolidating. And to your point too, there was a landmark lawsuit that just closed, and it was Epic versus Apple, and Google involved too. You can now do your own payment system on the Apple and Google store for
Mm,
transactions, but they will still get the 30% cut, which is
wow.
weird to think about.
Mm.
But
Interesting.
for your viewers in the EU, you can now download Fortnite again on your iPhone and your device because it's been taken off for like 2 years.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know about that. Cool. Well, thanks for that insight too about what's going on there. And I feel like we haven't gone too far yet into Google Alphabet. I mean, I know we mentioned a little bit earlier, but anything you're seeing going on with Alphabet?
It's looking really good. Personally, I listen to the calls. The Gemini models are doing well. Of course, they'll
And what's that?
still Gemini.
Yeah.
It's what Gemini is the answer to ChatGPT,
Oh, so it's
and
different from Bard.
it runs on Bard.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's the framework they use for Bard. Bard
Okay.
is just
Thanks.
the public facing thing.
I see.
Of course too, they have the founder of Google DeepMind working on Gemini. And if you look at the stock price, it tanked. It tanked at a period that's due to the fact that the Gemini stuff was fabricated.
Ooh.
So you got a nice dip on Google at the time that came out with all the OpenAI versus Google essentially, and then yeah, and then ads was going well. They're highly focusing on shorts. They're highly focusing on long form comment too. The issue is with Google. There's the one complaint I have is management word salads to the investor. Unlike Microsoft, they get to the point.
Mm-hmm. So maybe that could be an indication of, where things are not as clear right now at Alphabet. Like the more you see that, the more things get a little obfuscated, maybe. The less maybe the employees know what's going on or what's supposed to happen, what they're working toward. And maybe we see that play out in some of the stock price. Like you can see, I mean, obviously most of them besides Tesla have gone up, but some have gone up way more than others. Like I think Microsoft has now overtaken Apple in terms of the most market cap, which is amazing. Like for the longest time, Apple was dominant, but now Microsoft is like taking that position. I think they briefly did sometime before, but it's amazing to see, some of these big tech are performing way better than others. So we can see that play out to your point, maybe in how the CEO communicates and, are investors really holding them accountable? Like, so maybe that's part of why we could be seeing some of that play out in the stock prices.
Yeah, definitely, and of course too, yeah, Google's cash cow being sold, it's still up. They're still getting more search, and they're implementing now Google Lens, which was already implementation, but now that's running on the Gemini. It's not running on the Gemini framework, so it's going to be better, and you can ask it now more specific questions about what you actually see in your Google Lens.
So what's the Google Lens? Is that also an AR play?
It is the new search. It is technically AR. It is augmented reality, but it is a search feature. You can literally hold up your phone to anything, and you can tap on Google Lens. It will find you the product, and it will give you store pages, of course. And then you can ask it about questions now about said product.
Oh wow. Yeah, interesting you say that because there was like something like a certain sweatshirt I saw on a TV show and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool. I want to get this kind of thing." And I was trying to like Google it like sweatshirt with the cool pocket in the middle and I couldn't figure it out. So maybe I try that
Google
next
Lens
time.
will have got you there.
Yeah, maybe Google Lens can tell me if there's any sweatshirts like that that are made in that way. So I don't know. It could be interesting like you to your point.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy they've now dropped multi-search because that was the big focus last on this call was to get multi-search. Now they're focusing primarily on Google Lens, which is I'm happy. They're
But
focusing
why
more on like one thing.
what was the thing about multi-search? Was that like how would that play out if they were focusing on that?
It kind of works like Google Lens, but it was a bit different. You use the Google search bar if I remember, and then after that you can search multiple options. So you can
Mm,
do two simultaneous queues at the same exact time.
mm. So maybe it's like trying to pair parameters, but it doesn't
Yeah.
seem like kind of that novel of an idea. It wasn't?
No, it was not very useful. Sadly,
Okay.
it was a good idea in theory, but
Yeah,
that
but
happens.
that maybe gets really into the weeds for maybe like data scientists, like, like let's say you ask some random question like, what's going on in the world if you start seeing a king penguin show up on a South Australia beach and say a salmon is swimming in a certain direction. Like, you're trying to ask like two random questions about two different animal species, and then how is that affecting, say, the climate? I don't know. Like, it's like
Yeah.
trying very hard, and like I think most people just don't. They're not, maybe as far as I know, asking such complex questions. And if they are, if you really want to get into more brain power kinds of things, like for example, let's say you want to compare CEO letters and figure out, did they fulfill their promises and how is that correlated to return on equity and other indicators of CEO performance. And so if you try to put that in, say, an AI form and try to connect the dots, like, was the CEO being straightforward with you? Did they deliver? Like, how are these connected to financial performance metrics? So that would be more of an interesting question. Like, can you discern some patterns? But I think the AI engines that are out there are already trying to maybe head toward that direction, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, they're heading more towards that complex questions. With that included, you can get you can get Microsoft Copilot. That is the other big product out there for asking them sorts of questions in specific. Bard can't really do that yet, sadly. There's one product on the market that can, but it's in beta, which I have access to. I forget I forget what it's called. Oh, my bad. Yeah, it's called FinFlyer, I think it's called. You can type in finflyer.com. It's in open beta. It can gather a lot of this data about financial indices, but it can't really do math yet.
Oh, hmm.
It can do like basic calculations like return on equity, etc.
Wow. Well, that's really fascinating. So, I mean, I think we're covering a lot, and I think we've, reflected on each of these Magnificent Seven a little bit. And I think it's been really educational for me. I hope a lot of the audience also got a lot of value out of this. Thank you so much, Gabe, for sharing your wisdom on what's going on with these companies. I really appreciate your insights. So, with that, do you have any last closing thoughts before we wrap up for today?
Stay vigilant out there. Of course, there's a market. There's a market. You can. I would leave. This is like the other big thing too. Is like when you see these rallies in Pacific, you have to ask yourself why is other leading indicator names leaving the pack compared to like the other names
Hmm.
too. That
Yeah.
would be another question to ask yourself. Like why is Meta leaving Amazon in the dust at the moment?
Oh, yeah. Great question. So, with all that, we hope that makes everybody a better investor out there. And till next time, everybody.